Aloha and welcome to Two Story with Lori, where we talk to real people who have pushed through something. And I'm so excited about my guests today because they have definitely pushed through a very, very trying time in their lives. This is their book. It's A Miracle a Day, One Day at a Time. Hope After Traumatic Brain Injury. And you can see this is by Dawn Corbelli. She's sitting and her daughter Veronica is laying there. And I want to point out the car in the back as well. That was their car accident. This is available on Amazon. And again, it's by Dawn Corbelli. It's their story of that horrific car accident. So Dawn and Veronica, thank you for joining me this morning. How are you today?
Good, good. Thank you.
Good. So let's just jump right in because your story blew my mind. I have so much admiration for you, for both of you. You are an inspiration to me for sure after reading your book, which was beautifully written. I felt like I was with you, like literally in your house as you guys were healing and going on. It was just the way you wrote it really, really drew me in. Um, and so
Mhm.
just a quick setup. You were a thriving family. Your daughters were in high school. I know one of your daughters was away during this particular time. But Veronica, it sounded like you were popular in high school, had a lot going on. Your family was thriving with a bright future. Here it is. It's the day before Valentine's Day, so you're off to the store to get Valentine's Day cards. And then there was the picture of the accident. But
Nothing like waiting till the last minute.
yes, to get your card, right? You're
Right.
zooming out on the 13th.
I never waited that long again.
Yes, so there was one lesson learned, huh?
Yes.
Um, but in that accident, that broadsided by a 4x4, you wrote Dawn during the time of the accident and getting taken out of the car and all of that. You wrote manifests. These were manifestations of God working in your life, and just uh, inside that event, like real time happening, this is what you were thinking. So, what was going on that made you think that?
When I woke up from being unconscious, I felt so calm. I knew that if I had died, it would have been okay. And inside the car, there was like a bubble around us on my right side, Veronica's left side, where the truck had crashed in. And in the middle of us, she was actually where the middle console was supposed to
Mm,
be. And I could feel something in the car with us, and I felt protected. And in the back seat of the car was a jacket with the sleeves folded. And with all the glass that flew, it was actually in the sleeves. And Veronica and I didn't have any cuts on our face or on our bodies
I
to
have
speak of.
I have one piece of glass in my face, and that's it.
and that's it.
We were protected.
And so you literally had some kind of protective bubble around you that kept the glass from cutting you up. It's all in the back seat in like a place it really can't even get.
Right.
The
Yeah.
glass, like the bubble deflected it or
Yes.
something. That is miracle kind of number one, right? You both
Mhm.
survived, and then you've got this bubble. You also had said whoever it was that found your phone, you called him an angel. Um,
Yes. I didn't have my husband's name highlighted, or you can tell who the person is, my husband or whatever.
mhm.
I didn't have it labeled anything
It
except for
just
his name.
Yeah, just like Greg's
And
self.
right, and so how would they know who to call? They
I
just
don't
Right.
know.
and they
Right.
just pressed Greg, just called Greg.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. I do you have something indicating the person to call now on your
Yes.
phone? I have ice in case of emergency.
Oh, very good.
I learned that like years ago. I don't know if people know that. I'm hoping first responders know it. But I do have ice for my husband and his name. So you weren't cut up at all, but there was multiple fractures that happened.
I'm sure.
Concussion. You
You're
both
right.
suffered very traumatic brain injuries.
Right.
Veronica's was much more severe
Oh,
um, at the time, and so you are now in the hospital, and they are telling you as best that you can understand, Dawn, because I mean, you were in the accident too. But they're telling you now that Veronica, your daughter, is probably going to be in a vegetative state.
mm-hmm.
Yes. And so do you remember that moment?
I do. The doctor told me that we needed to find a nursing home for her because she wouldn't likely come out of the vegetative state. And all I could think was, nope, nope. Greg and I were already trying to figure out where we would change her diaper in our house for
Mm.
the rest of our days. We wouldn't hear of it. She wasn't going away from us. And then
Wow.
she passed through the vegetative state and to what they call a minimally conscious state, where you're only aware sometimes of your surroundings.
Hmm.
And then she became conscious.
Because Veronica wasn't having it either. She was
Nope.
going home.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so through this with the with gosh, the memory loss that you talk about, and dealing with that. But I want to stay on Veronica just for another second, because you had multiple doctors. There was lots of injuries and things going on, but there was one doctor who was positive. So talk about that and the difference that makes.
Mhm. Our
Yes.
neuropsychologist, he was the only one that said Veronica is going to walk out of the hospital in 3 months. That's what he said. And he did. He said, I'll bet you a Coke. And after we got out of the hospital,
I
we,
brought him a Coke.
Right on, because you won the. Yes, yes.
yeah,
So it really makes a big difference to have. I mean, this was somebody that you were looking towards for answers and information, and
mhm,
and so it was nice to have somebody give you hope, like
that's
for
right.
the future, something to really hold on to, and really cling to at that dark time.
But the truth is, the doctors tell you the worst all the
Yeah,
time,
yeah.
and they know so little about the human spirit and
Mm,
the, the Lord,
yes.
because that's the only one that knows what's really going to happen to you.
Yes, amen. And clearly, in your book, you talk a lot about the faith. I mean, really, it was the faith that kind of sustained you guys, the undercurrent of faith through all of this. So, um, Don, you were in the hospital for 2 weeks,
3 weeks.
for 3 weeks,
Mhm.
just healing. You had a broken pelvis, so it's
Six,
hard.
I had 6 breaks in my pelvis, and Veronica had 8.
Yes. Oh goodness. So after you were able to get out, you still could barely walk, right?
Right,
And your brain injury, your TBI is fresh. And
right.
so you get home and are forgetting things, like you're not quite ready to be independent, but yet you start cooking, maybe if you're home alone at some point. So what was that like when you first got home? Trying to readjust.
At first, when I got home, I had neighbors staying with me while Greg was at work. First, my mom was there, then my dad was there, and then the neighbors from down the street stayed with me. And then when I was on my own, I was just allowed to sit on the couch and watch a movie. And I wasn't allowed to do anything. I couldn't cook right away because I would forget
Yeah.
the oven or the stove on. And I couldn't walk down the stairs myself.
Mm.
So I had to go down on my butt one stair at a time. I did that for weeks and weeks.
Wow. And that felt better on your pelvis to slide.
Yes,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had
Well,
to.
it must have, right? If you it was you
You
could.
can be gentle
Yeah. Yeah. And
and slow.
yeah, and so through all of your healing and the effects that you had, um, and then you also talk about that you had to have bipolar, and in these stressful situations trigger that, and so
Yes,
you also had a really rough go of bipolar episode. I mean, this is all during all this,
yes,
on top of all of that,
yes,
to cope with, and trying to see, make sure you can get to Veronica every day in the hospital. I'm probably crossing timelines again, but there was a lot going on, and you still got a ride, got yourself to the hospital every day to see your daughter.
we we didn't miss a day, and we went twice on Saturday and twice on Sunday.
Yeah,
And
and
I was told that a lot of families don't do that. I don't know if they think that their loved ones will forget, but we we would cry if we were away from her for too long.
yes, yeah, and you had said, um, that you told God it doesn't matter how she comes out of this. I
Mhm.
want my daughter. And
That's right.
yeah,
Any God chose. And
yes,
she turned out different than before, which every person with a severe traumatic brain injury does.
yeah,
You have to get to know them all over again as
yes,
a new person. They get like a different personality and different emotions.
yes.
Yeah.
And so Veronica, is coming out of the coma. One of the things, actually, Veronica, that you said, because I know you had, people there talking to you a lot. Friends would come. Friends hung in there for a long time. They did, um, but you had said, um, because you could hear, you knew people were in the room, um, and so you felt like you were trapped in a nightmare. That's what you wrote. I know, that time is really hard to remember, but can you speak about that? Feeling like you were trapped in a nightmare?
I just remember people coming to my hospital room and I would just sit there and I remember like they would ask me questions and stuff and I would answer in my head and I was just trapped. I was just trapped.
She couldn't talk for over 2 months.
Yeah,
They
so
want to talk again.
just because of the brain injury and having to relearn everything, you
Mhm.
couldn't like project, but you understood. You had a sense of your surroundings and could not respond. That just sounds claustrophobic to me. Very
Oh
claustrophobic.
yeah.
Yes. So way to kick its ass, Veronica.
Yeah.
That's what I say. Good job. Um,
Wisest person I know.
oh my
Right.
gosh. Yes. Yes. Veronica, you're amazing. You are, and so she's getting better. And I know there's kind of step downs based on, I don't know if step down is the right, but from ICU, and then she's in the rehab, center of the hospital for most of the time. And at this point, you're 15, right?
Yeah.
Veronica's 15. She's a vibrant teenager, um, but and so there's these steps called Rancho. The more independent you get, but Dawn, you kept a journal, which was so great and was just amazing to have in the book because it was like real time, and
I knew I wouldn't remember
yeah,
while Veronica was in the hospital because of my brain injury.
hmm
So I got a spiral notebook, and it's funny because this is how I got the name of the book. I wrote on the inside of the cover, "A miracle a day, one day at a time," and the date, and that's where I got the name of the book.
yes, and that's a perfect name, because that's what happened, and it's so clear. But you wrote on, 3/19/2008. Today was my epiphany.
Yes,
And so what was that? What was the epiphany?
I just got goosebumps when you said it.
Oh,
My dad was staying with me, and I had only been out of the hospital a day or two. The doctor called, Veronica's doctor, and said, um, I don't think he realized that I had a brain injury. He said, she's not likely to ever become independent or be able to be self-sufficient. And I got off the phone and I started yelling and really loud and a lot of cuss words. He is not God. He's not God. He doesn't get to say. And he doesn't get to say. Only God does. So
okay.
I felt better then. I leaned on the Lord. From then on, I put it in God's hands. It was no longer us and the doctors. It was us and God.
Okay. And so did that kind of take some pressure off your shoulders? Just
Yes,
so you were kind of, I don't know if relax is the right word, but kind of relax into the peace of knowing God was in control
yes.
and
If you
not the
notice,
doctors.
in my journals, everything is really positive.
Yes, yes.
That's because the Lord took care of us.
And you wrote about your one miracle, one day at a time, one miracle a day. You wrote about, and that's what was so brilliant about your journals. And so Veronica has the injury. Her brainstem was sheared, and so some parts were paralyzed. She had the frontal lobe injury. So she had severe injuries, but she's starting to be cognizant now, as time passes. So better at communicating verbally and getting thoughts together. And so
Yeah.
and so one of the things that happens, right, with this type of a brain injury is
You become very perverse.
yes,
Yeah,
thank
It's
you,
very hard.
Veronica, for being the one to
Yeah,
say
yeah.
that. You became very perverse. Like the inhibitors is the word I think throughout your book. There's just no more inhibitors, no more filters,
right,
and and something sexual gets turned on in your brain
right.
or highlighted or something, and so very sexual comments and remarks start
Every,
coming out of
every.
We
yeah.
were just, Veronica, shocked, but we took it all in stride, all of it, because,
And
yeah,
they
go
were
ahead.
scared that I wouldn't be faithful to my boyfriend at the time.
Mhm.
And and we were together for a year after the accident and stuff. But
Mhm.
and I was faithful every day. And I'm still like, me and my boyfriend now, I'm faithful every day.
Which
Good.
is very odd because a lot of people, even if they're married, they stray
Yes.
because of
Yeah.
this it's like an obsession.
Right.
Yeah.
And so Veronica, you're able to again, because of for lack of a better word, but you're able to go ahead and just channel that to the one person that you love, kind of
Mhm.
rather than it being scattered
Yeah.
everywhere and
Mhm.
being awkward, and
Yeah.
and I don't really want to go into it, but some people did take advantage of
Yeah.
that in you, and so it's scary. It's scary, can be. I mean, there's times where you can kind of joke about it, but scary things can happen
Yes.
as well. Um, and so I'm thankful that you've got a love now, that gets that part of you. And so let me turn my page. So things are getting better. People are becoming, more independent with the miracle a day, one day at a time.
Mhm.
But kind of the back part of your book, Dawn, and I know, Veronica, you had a lot of input, but it talks about your new life, and like you said, personalities are different now. Everything is different. So What are some of the things, like if somebody just now has a loved one in the hospital with a TBI, what are some of the things that you went through? Everything's changing.
Mhm.
Yeah, what can you talk about? Speak
Um,
into that.
we call it going from white to red, where you're calm, and red is so angry that you see red. It happens within a matter of probably 2 seconds.
Like I shake.
Okay.
And
And
it's
and
not
so
even control.
um, going to a big emotion so quickly was something new. That's new now from.
Yes.
Okay.
And thank God I'm on medicine now. And I take them faithfully.
Emotional, you get, oh, it's a roller coaster, an emotional roller
I
coaster. And for me, having bipolar disorder, we didn't know if the emotions that I was feeling was from the bipolar disorder or from the brain injury. So I
Yes.
took my medicines and hoped for the best.
Right. It just I'm boggled at what you you had the strength to get through. Um, so the emotions now are just crazy.
mm,
Um, you talk one at one point about um, I just I this struck me at some point because it I feel like it's something that people want to tell you how to handle it, um, like you don't know and haven't tried everything already. But one of the things you say about Veronica was there gets to be a lack of motivation. She'll try something, but only is interested in a week or not very long.
It's called adenamia, and it is lack of initiation and motivation. So it makes it hard to go to school or keep a job or find a passion.
so it's like one day I'll be like, I want to go to college for blah blah blah.
Hmm.
And then, so we'll get me all signed up and every like the school, everything. And then I'll go one day and then I'll come home and be like, I don't want to do this.
So is it like a switch that flips? Because what if somebody just says, well, you can make the choice, you can choose
No,
to.
No, you can't.
nope.
Not with this brain injury.
Okay. So that's another thing that you've had to navigate
Yeah.
and just feel good about trying new things, whether they last or not. One of the things that struck me, Dawn, that you said was, these are small. I mean, we almost died. I almost lost my daughter. These
Mhm.
things are small. I have my daughter
Mhm.
now. So speak about that.
Um, Everything has a different meaning now. Things that people would just, it would ruin their day. I look at them completely differently. Not much can ruin my day because I have my daughter and we went through so much and I know how strong I am now. And I don't sweat the small stuff anymore.
Yeah,
Like
that.
like I was in an aerobics class for high school the first 6 months that I got out of the hospital or whatever, and I was back to school. And I wanted to prove to everybody that I was not a quitter. And just like I wanted them to see that Veronica was still there. And I actually ended up fracturing my knee.
At the
She had,
aerobic class, because it was a little too soon, maybe. But
yes, she had
Yes.
to walk up this hill at school every day. And it was really hard for her, but she never complained. Veronica is not a complainer. And she ended up fracturing her left knee, the one that was already really weak.
And
yes,
I had to wear a brace for years, and I hated that fucking thing because it took my whole like up my whole leg. I hated it. So
This is postable. It's
yeah,
in
it's fine.
Veronica.
yeah,
That's called lack of filter.
yeah.
Yes, and
You have
so
seen it firsthand.
and so there's the lack of filter, the impulse control, or not control, right? Lack of impulse control. These are all new things
It's called a
that.
deficit.
Yes, and
Emphasis is deficiency. That's all.
yes.
It's a
a,
deficiency.
it's a deficiency. And I know we spoke before, and I was having trouble with that word, and I figured out why. Because
Oh,
I felt like I felt like when I said it, it was judging you in a negative way. And I know
oh,
you didn't take
oh,
that, but I had to work through that in myself, um,
oh,
in order to say, yes, there's deficits that are there now. And it's not negative or positive. It's just the way it is.
you
And
weren't
that's the
judging.
word.
It's
Yeah.
a fact.
Yes. Yeah. And
You weren't
so
being mean.
but so will Veronica be able to move out at this point? I know she's got a
Yeah.
boyfriend, like a long-term relationship now.
Okay.
Oh, the phone's ringing. That's fine.
Um, it's not likely that she'll be able to move out by herself. If she
Hmm.
has somebody that cares about her and can take care of her, and they prove to us that they can take care of her, then maybe
Hmm.
someday, but
Yeah.
not
A-
right now.
And so this is the rest of your life. I mean, this is your
Yeah.
life now.
She
Um,
has very poor decision making skills, and if she's with somebody that's doing something dangerous,
mhm.
she'll stay with them. Like drinking and driving, she'll get in the car. She
Okay.
doesn't know what might happen,
Yes.
but we have to be very careful.
And is that because that's a processing deficit?
Yes.
Yes. Decision making and processing what's appropriate, what's not, what's safe, what's dangerous, those
Yes.
kinds of things. And so
That's forever.
that's forever. Yeah. Okay. Um, this is we're nearing kind of the end, but just another thing I wanted to touch on because it's a big deal. You wrote about the medication, and there's a lot in the different mixes. So talk about what it was like, or what it is like to figure out, like the medications.
And we, I got home and Veronica was still in the hospital.
Hmm.
And we needed to order my medications. When you go on the phone and it asks you for a number, and there's like 7 numbers in a row, I could remember one number or 2 numbers, but not all of them. So every time I would go back and look at the number, I would forget which numbers I already put in.
Mm.
And it took forever. And that's the only time really that Greg ever got. He was so he has PTSD from all of this. And he was like yelling at me. And I
Hmm.
said, I can't help it. None of us understood brain injury at that time.
Sure.
So it was really frustrating. And I had to fill our pill cases when Veronica got home, and I filled mine.
Hmm.
And you never realize how hard that can be when you're on several medications and you have to have them at certain times of the day.
And so you're trying to make sure that the right pills go in the right time slot on the right day,
Yes.
and then just all of the
And I
Sorry.
also expected Veronica to do that after only a couple years. And I didn't realize that she read worse than I did. Our reading ability
Like
became
our
very bad.
understanding.
okay, the
Comprehension.
comprehension part.
Yeah.
So there's another thing now that's got to be navigated,
Yeah.
and then just all of the getting the right mixtures. Like, what this medication doesn't work because it affects this one. It seems like that can take years to kind of,
Yes, it did.
yeah. And
So like
so,
my
um,
doctor like just recently, knock on wood, found a good mixture for me.
It's been a year since Veronica has felt well, and she's
Yeah.
been very white to red.
And very depressed and
Yes, and
yeah.
crying and crying and
Mhm.
crying. But now we just made a switch, and she's been doing well for a couple weeks, and the best she's been in a year.
Thank God.
fantastic, fantastic, because that is a big deal, getting the medication right, and it takes a long time because it's
So,
like trial and error.
Absolutely.
Veronica, I'm so glad you're feeling good
Well, thank
now.
you.
Yes, feeling good, looking good. Um, and that brings me to what you said. I'm glad you came back. And this is right out of I quoted this. It's with the deficits, life is hard. People get frustrated with you, sometimes lash out if they don't know, or they're just rude people.
Mhm.
But what you said about that was this. You said any of us can die at any moment, and I don't want to die angry at anyone. That was so beautiful. Um, to somebody that's been thrown through so much and kind of has a right to be angry. Your anger would be justified. Um, and so why did you say that?
We're sitting here with tears in our eyes.
I know. Well, I know. I almost choked up and managed to keep it in. But why is that? Why is that important to you, Veronica?
Like coming that close to death and realizing that every minute does matter. It just, I don't want anyone to think that I'm an angry person or, like I want them to have good feelings when they think about me. And I want to be the good in someone's life sometimes,
Now you're making me cry of all you've been through, and I'm sure people have been mean. I know you write about some of the things, and here you're the light. You want to be the light,
Yes.
for people. Oh my gosh. And then a thing that you wrote at the end, Dawn, and I don't think I did this word for word, but you wrote, looking back, you couldn't imagine having the strength to do what you actually did.
Mhm.
It's still, it's mind-boggling to me. But you look back at that, and how did you have the strength? I mean,
God.
Yeah.
yeah. So it was faith, leaning on God, trusting God after that epiphany that you had
Yes.
into it's just switched
I
your whole
know there's people
perspective.
that don't believe in God, but he, without him, I just don't feel like, I think we did a good job and we tried so hard. And I just don't think we could have done all we did if it wasn't for the Lord. And
I don't believe I would be here if it wasn't for him.
Yes, God kept you alive. I think that was something you wrote near the front, that
I
God
became,
kept you alive. Yeah.
I have such like so I don't go to church every Sunday or, like, but I have such a deeper connection with God now. Like, I talk to him almost every night and I thank him for everything he's given me. And
we have a good life.
yeah, it's just, it's
Yes.
different now.
It's not, it's just different, that's all. Because
Yeah.
another thing that you said, Veronica, was the accident did more good in our lives than it
I,
did bad.
yes.
Mhm.
That that uh,
So,
Oh,
that is just a testament to like who you are, like
mhm.
as people, as humans, like
yeah.
who you are. We've got to come to a close now. So is there any last thing that you'd like to say, either of you?
Thank you so much.
Oh, Veronica, thank you, thank you. That is a
Uh,
beautiful. Or go ahead, Dawn.
no, I was just thinking, a lot of interesting things happened on the day of the accident,
Mhm.
and you have to read the book to find out.
Yes,
Yeah.
there's
There are
there's
coincidences.
yeah, it is an amazing story. Um, I will hold it up again. Um, Here it is. It's a miracle a day, one day at a time. Life after traumatic brain injury, and their story is unbelievable. Their strength and fortitude would um, plow down any mountain. I highly suggest, if you know anybody that's going through a TBI right now, that you get this book. It really is, it lays it out so clearly. It would be inspirational and helpful for so many things, if you are in that. Plus, it's just a great read if you need some inspirational um, a
Mhm.
story material to kind of help you through any kind of a dark time. So get that book on Amazon. Dawn and Veronica, stay there. But everybody, thank you for tuning in today. We appreciate that, and see you next time.